Good afternoon, race fans. What to say about Bristol? Overall, I thought it was a pretty good race. Not a great race, but a pretty good race. Um, Congratulations to Ty Gibbs winning his first NASCAR Cup Series race. That is a monumental achievement, and I'm sure now the second, third, and fourth ones will come much easier. I know that getting that first win, there's a psychological barrier there, and I think with so many top 10 and top 5 finishes in a row. I think with this first place finish, this is like six in a row in the top 10 and like five out of six in the top five. So he's been having a phenomenal season. I've been actually quite impressed with how much he's matured this season. I feel like he's actually focused and I'm gaining a lot of respect for him as a driver. Before, I definitely thought he was his behavior and some of his antics were not to my liking. He was a little childish, but no, I feel like he's definitely grown up and matured into a proper race car driver. He's still a little bit of an enigma. He doesn't really share a lot about who he is or anything like that. But I did watch the Kenny conversation on the Kenny Wallace YouTube channel a couple weeks ago where he interviewed Ty Gibbs. And I think if Ty Gibbs did more interviews like that, a little, obviously Kenny Wallace does sort of an appreciation interview. He's not trying to call anybody out. He's trying to celebrate, as he says. And I thought that really gave me an understanding of, or I should say, more of an understanding of Ty Gibbs' background, how well he's done in the other series, things like that. Because I never really paid attention to Ty Gibbs before, except for kind of some of his less desirable antics and things that happened in the past. But I want to say, over the last little over a year and a half, he's definitely started to mature. And then I feel like in the last 6 months, he's definitely I don't know, become an adult, become a man, and is behaving more like a proper professional race car driver than he was previously. So what can I say? Congratulations, Ty Gibbs. I thought you raced a very good race. Holding off Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson at the end with older tires was a feat. Definitely looked like Ryan Blaney was getting a little loose there. He had a couple issues, and it looked like one of his issues where he slipped up a little bit actually allowed Kyle Larson to hit his bumper, which I think actually gave Ty Gibbs a little bit of that separation he needed to seal the deal. And frankly, I think Ty Gibbs did a really good job of kind of not taking the bait, continuing to race his race where he needed to be on the track, stayed in that upper line, kept his momentum, and Blaney was there. He was right, side by side for a little while, but a little bit of slippage on that bottom line, and it just allowed Ty Gibbs to beat Blaney by, I think it was like 0.05 seconds, roughly 5 feet of track. So, what a photo finish, a phenomenal race. And Yeah, congratulations, Ty Gibbs. Overall, I thought Kyle Larson had a great weekend, but he lost out in both the O'Reilly race and the Cup race. In the O'Reilly race, he lost to Connor Zilisch. Connor Zilisch came through the field and showed that he is a phenomenal driver. He's having a rough go in Cup right now, and frankly, I think that's more to do with his equipment than with him as a driver. I think all the Chevys, except for like Hendrick Motorsports, seems to now be sort of getting their act together with Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. Uh, William Byron had a horrible day, horrible day. Had to change his steering rack, was having steering issues. Just basically the whole weekend was a bust for him. Ended up starting in the back, got 3 laps down. It was just a horrible outing for Byron, but kind of like Logano a couple weeks ago, where his setup was just off. It looks like Byron and his team just was off on the setup and just had a horrible day. So but overall, I thought it was good to see Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson running toward the front. I thought it was really good to see Carson Hocevar running basically 4 through 7 most of the day. He ended up finishing 10th, which I think was partially due to when he and Ty Gibbs stayed out, he also had older tires. And so I think he was able to get past in the final few laps so he finished 10th because he just was on older tires than those around him. And but overall, I thought Hocevar had a great race, stayed very clean, stayed out of everybody's way, didn't do any mistakes that got people mad at him. And I thought he raced a very smart race. And I guess the only question is, should he have taken tires in that last pit stop with everybody else when all the leaders went in and he stayed out with Ty Gibbs and started looked like P3. He could have chosen the front row, but he would have been on the inside. And we know like the whole day the inside was just not getting the launch that the outside lane was. So what can I say? I think he made the smart choice trying to start in P3 in the outer lane, but I think he just didn't have the tires there at the end to kind of hold people off. So overall, a solid race weekend. Trucks was a little disappointing, not the greatest rates, a little boring. Had some moments, kind of picked up, but definitely had some crashes and things that just I think reduced its overall enjoyment because it was just got a little silly. Got would, and I frankly think Eckes, I think he hooked Heim. That's my opinion. Can I prove it? No. Could it have been an accident? Sure, but when you've been racing trucks that long, you know where the corners of your vehicle are. I think you kind of know when you're about to right hook somebody. So, can it be proven it was an intentional? Probably not, but it definitely was on that borderline of something that looked like he may have intentionally done it or could have potentially done it by mistake. But I'm gonna err on the side of he meant to push him a little bit, maybe not push him into the wall, but he definitely meant to cause some looseness in the rear end, let me say. So let's get into it a little bit more. What do I got? All right. So I already talked about Ty Gibbs. Congratulations. He's always going to remember this race, Bristol 2026 spring race, as his first win. And if you look at who the other drivers with first wins at Bristol, he is joining an epic list. We're talking Dale Earnhardt, Ernie Irvan, I think Rusty Wallace. It is an absolute epic list of people who got their first win at Bristol. So kind of wild. And it's also, I think, the first time, I think they said since 2002 when Kurt Busch got his first win at Bristol. So it's been 24 years since somebody got their first win at Bristol. Very cool. Very good stuff. For me, I think the necessary story from the weekend is going to be about Ryan Blaney's pit crew. And I thought Ryan Blaney had the fastest car all day. And if you listen to Kyle Larson's comments after the race, he mentioned that it was Ryan Blaney's pit crew that was putting him behind at those pit stops. And I think his last couple pit stops were better, but he had two pit stops that just put him behind the eight ball. He had to make up territory, and this is an ongoing issue for Ryan Blaney's pit crew. And I don't know what to say except for maybe somebody needs to be fired. Maybe somebody needs to be swapped out. Like take one guy from one team and throw him onto the other team and see if just changing the mix of which personnel are on which car will have an effect. But I think Ryan Blaney would have won that race if he didn't have to come back from two slow pit stops. The two slow pit stops forced him to have to regain territory twice, and so that takes effort. And if you're, basically fixing issues instead of, staying out in the lead, I think that's the issue. If he could have had those 8 seconds back over two pit stops, that's a lot of track position. So I don't know what has to happen. I don't know if Ryan Blaney is in a position to fire somebody, but I think Penske needs to have a kind of come to Jesus moment, have a conversation, get the pit crew in there. Maybe they're practicing all week, getting better on just being a pit crew. But it might be that they need to do a shakeup, take part of Austin Cindric's team and move him to Blaney, or pick up a couple new guys. I don't know what the correct solution is, but if Ryan Blaney is going to be in contention for the championship this year, he can't be fighting his own pit crew every week. He can't be overcoming mistakes made by his pit crew every week, because it seems to be the story with Blaney is not that he's slow or anything, is that he's having to overcome mistakes by his team, and he's doing it, but when you have to keep doing it over and over and over again, you can't quite get to the front every single time. So the fact that he came in second place after two major pit issues, I think is going to be one of the big stories for this week. Kyle Larson, I think for him, it's just going to be two great races that he ended up leading and winning both stages, but then not winning that final third stage. And it's also been almost a full year since Kyle Larson won a race. So I think we're in kind of new territory for Kyle Larson. He's driving well, but it just isn't closing the deal. So I don't know what's going on. Kyle Larson, I mean, it's good that the Hendrick Motorsports Chevys are finally, toward the front, but it's just there's something off, and he's just not closing out races. Tyler Reddick overcame a pit issue, speeding on the pit lane, and overall didn't have the greatest day, but was able to work his way back up and then kind of finish fourth. So well done for him. Chase Briscoe, I think this was just a great, solid showing from him. He needed it. I think he said that he didn't have what he thought would have been a top 1, 2, or 3 car, and that he was pretty happy where he was kind of in that, 4 through 7 spot most of the day. And frankly, he just needed a decent points day and a decent finish to just climb in the rankings. And now I think he's sitting one outside of the chase right now. Todd Gilliland, took a gamble, took only 2 tires, went for track position, and wow, great move on his part. Top 10 finish. I think this is his first top 10 finish, so well done, Todd Gilliland. Just, I thought, a great showing from him, and just some smart driving and some smart crew chiefing. So well done. Joey Delgado, I thought, looked good. Much better than he did a couple weeks ago and at Darlington, when he looked like complete garbage. So what can I say? Solid performance by Joey. I thought he had a chance to get a little further ahead, but I think a 7th place finish is not bad for him this week, and definitely he needed the points. And then I'm a Ryan Preece fan, so I like to see him in the top 8 or top 10. But overall, he never really got into the front, top 5, but he was consistently in that kind of top 10 to top 15. Overall, strong performance by Ryan Preece. Same thing with Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin kind of got up to about, that 4th or 5th place, but then he kept dropping down. So I feel like he had that kind of top 10 speed, but didn't necessarily have the top 5 speed to win this one. Same thing with Hocevar. I thought Hocevar had a great day. I already mentioned this, was running, basically 4 through 7 most of the day. Strong performance. I think it was just the older tires at the end that kind of caused him to fall back a little bit. But overall, I thought Hocevar raced a very clean, very smart race. It seems like he's definitely racing for points and trying to make sure that he maximizes. So good job for him. Sorry about that spam phone call. And then Bubba Wallace, I thought he had a pretty solid showing. Nothing exciting there, but a better finish than I thought he was running most of the day. Same thing with Suarez, better finish than I thought he was running most of the day. And then Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski also slightly better finishes than I thought. They kind of were what's the right word? Better. Their finish is a little better than their performance throughout the day. So I think they kind of came up at the end. Allmendinger, top 15 finish, nicely done. Cindric, Ricky Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Zane Smith, Ross Chastain, Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst got into it with Kyle Busch at one point, and then Kyle Busch kind of paid him back 2 laps from the end to cause that final caution. But it looked like Herbst was already spinning a little bit, and Kyle Busch just kind of drove through him out of like, well, you spun me out, I get to spin you out. But overall, I thought it was a solid race, not a spectacular race. So let us get into scoring. This was a tough one to score because I did enjoy the race. I thought overall the racing was pretty good, decent passing, but not great passing. The tires were less of a factor, so I kept them neutral. And I didn't think there was a ton of like strategy, so I kept that right at the baseline 7. So I've scored this right at a 75. So not as good as Coda, not as good as Darlington. But I'm a little biased. I really like Darlington as a track, so maybe that's just me. And then better than Vegas, better than Martinsville. No, Atlanta is still my top race. So what can I say? Yeah. So yeah, Atlanta's still my top race, followed by Daytona, then Phoenix, then Darlington, then Coda. And overall, through 8 races, we're averaging basically like a 77.25. So call that, a C plus or a B minus area. But overall, I was pleased, but I could see how the race could be better, and there were definitely aspects I thought the tire fall off could have been a little bit more. The passing could have been a little bit better, but it was still pretty good. That's why I gave it a 7.5 on passing. Um, but overall, yeah, I thought, tire was fairly neutral. Strategy was pretty straightforward. The little bit of, Ty Gibbs and Hocevar staying out instead of getting tires, I didn't think it was enough to bump me up. So I could have put a half point here. I could have put another, put that at a 7.5, and that would bring us to, a 76. But I think keeping it at the 75 is probably more fair. I don't want to discount this. I really enjoyed the race. I like Bristol a lot. I like that short track, but wasn't a ton of chaos. It was actually a fairly clean race overall. Just I thought it could have been a little bit better. Thought maybe if there was maybe some more tire fall off or a little bit more um, pit strategy, but we really only had the two drivers do the pit strategy, so not not a huge amount of strategy in this one, but overall good racing quality, decent passing. I gave the passing, you can see, a 7.5. But let's jump to the O'Reilly series. Um, I graded that one just below, put that at a 73. And then the truck series, I put that at a 71. It was just sort of I don't know. It just didn't it wasn't that great a truck race, and it could have been better. And it was, they were all wrapping the bottom for a long time, and it was just not a super exciting race. I actually felt like the Freedom 500 was a little bit more fun. Um, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Freedom Plus. It's worth the, $20 a month or whatever, to see it, because it's just fun. What can I say? Kenny Wallace came in, I think, fourth in that. Brian Deegan won. Pretty epic race, but it's chaos. It's Crown Vics on a 3/8 oval, so it's not NASCAR. It's well below NASCAR, but it's fun. So what can I say? Overall, I thought it was a very successful race weekend. I think we had a lot of, solid racing, above average racing. We're not, to great racing yet, but very good, very solid. We're gonna put this, most of these, like the cup race at a 75. It's like that's like a C plus B minus area. Um, I may have to go in and add the pluses and minuses to the letter grades to make it so it kind of spells things out a little better for people instead of just being blanket A's, B's, or C's. But overall, I thought it was a good race weekend. And what do let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going. Talk to you soon.